Hello and welcome to Rahulverse. In today's video lecture, we are going to analyze the recently finalized India-UK Free Trade Agreement. The India-UK Free Trade Agreement is officially known as Comprehensive Economic and Trade Agreement. It represents a landmark achievement in the bilateral trade relations between India and UK. The Free Trade Agreement was signed on July 24, 2025 after 3 years of arduous negotiations. The FTA is set to double the bilateral trade from $56 billion to $120 billion in the next 5 years. This free trade agreement grants unprecedented market access. United Kingdom will eliminate custom duties on 100% of its tariff lines over the next 7 years, while India will also open up its market and reduce tariffs on 90% of UK products. Let's delve deeper into this free trade agreement. Before that, we need to understand what is an FTA. By the name itself, one can decipher free trade agreement. It is an arrangement where two or more countries commit to opening up their markets to one another by lowering tariffs, quotas, and other trade barriers, making it easier for goods and services to move between them. The concept of free trade agreement is the opposite of protectionism or economic isolationism. In economic realm, we understand FTA as the first or rather the second step. The first step would be a PTA, a preferential trade agreement. From a PTA, we move towards a free trade agreement, then towards a comprehensive economic agreement, eventually leading up to customs union, customs market, and eventually economic union. So India has taken a first step to open up its market for UK products, where we had higher tariffs before. Let's talk about the negotiations. Let's get a historical background. The birth of India-UK Free Trade Agreement negotiations began in 2021. The foundations were laid by Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi and the then UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson, who launched the Enhanced Trade Partnership, establishing a roadmap for comprehensive trade negotiations. Formal negotiations began in January 2022 when Indian Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal and UK Secretary of State Anne-Marie Trevelyan launched the FTA talks in New Delhi. The journey was not easy. The negotiation took more than 3 years. There were many challenges. One of the first challenges was political, because the leadership in UK changed multiple times. The negotiation process spanned 14 intensive rounds between India and UK from January 2022 till May 2025. The negotiation faced several interruptions because of change in prime ministers in UK. The agreement itself witnessed 4 different prime ministers in UK. The negotiations began with Boris Johnson, then came Liz Truss, then Rishi Sunak, and finally it has been signed between Keir Starmer and Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi. In India also, the negotiations were paused because of the elections in 2024. Apart from the political challenges, there were many specific challenges or disagreements between India and UK during these negotiations. Let's delve a little deeper into specific challenges and how they were resolved. One of the first challenges was visa and professional mobility issue between the two. Now you need to understand that here the visa or mobility issue would start from India, because India would want access to more of its people in United Kingdom. India consistently sought greater visa liberalization for its professionals, particularly in IT, healthcare, and other financial services sector. While United Kingdom post-Brexit had brought stringent immigration policies, which created a friction between the two players. However, in the FTA, specific provisions have been provided for visa and business mobility. There would now be access to contractual service suppliers and independent professionals. Short-term business visitors can stay up to 90 days without needing any labor market tests from India to UK. There will also be a quota system where 1,800 Indian chefs, yoga instructors, and classical musicians annually can visit UK. There will also be enhanced mobility for intra-corporate transferees with guaranteed 3-year access. Apart from this, both countries have agreed that the visa applications will be processed within 3 weeks by UK and 4 weeks by India. Apart from the visa issue, another irritant was intellectual property and market access disputes between the two countries. This has been a major issue between India and many other developed countries. Intellectual property has been a bone of contention for India, especially for its pharmaceutical industries. Although the FTA has provisions, but some critics argue that because of this free trade agreement, India's pharmaceutical sector might be hampered a little. Both India and UK have agreed to commit for timely trademark and patent registration. There will be a joint initiative between the two countries for recognition of geographical indications such as Darjeeling tea and Scotch whisky. The free trade agreement allows UK businesses to participate in Indian government procurement, especially in the non-sensitive central government entities. So India has opened up its market even under the government procurement route, which might be a problem in future. Apart from the intellectual property issues, there are issues connected, or there were issues, I would say, connected to sanitary and phytosanitary measures. Generally, UK and other developed countries have stringent SPS measures, especially on agri and food exports coming into their country. However, under the FTA, United Kingdom will recognize Indian certifications and inspection systems for products like basmati rice, grapes, mangoes, seafood, and buffalo meat. Exporters from India will benefit from pre-listing of facilities without the need for any batch-by-batch inspection. Thus, it will reduce the delays and also compliance costs. Apart from this, India went for strong negotiations to protect its domestic industries, which will be very true for any developing country where they would want some protectionist measures to protect their domestic industries. This FTA provides protective mechanisms for domestic industries facing unfair trade practices. Both India and UK, they retain the right to impose anti-dumping duty and countervailing duty if there is injury to domestic industry, which must be proven through the negotiations or other resolution measures. Apart from this, another major irritant between India and UK has been the carbon border adjustment mechanism, which UK had announced. United Kingdom has proposed a carbon tax which is scheduled for implementation in 2027. This would be imposed on the imports coming into UK on specific sectors which contribute towards global warming or climate change. Carbon intensive sectors like steel, aluminium, cement and fertilizers would be heavily impacted. Although the carbon tax would be implemented in 2027, but India already had reservations over this. While India failed to secure a formal exemption from this, but both countries have reached an understanding that India can take appropriate counterbalancing measures if the carbon border adjustment mechanism, whenever it is imposed after 2027, if it negatively impacts, then India can take counterbalancing measures. So most of the specific challenges and disagreements have been resolved and the free trade agreement has been finalized. Let's look into some of the features of this FTA. The free trade agreement between India and UK encompasses 27 chapters covering multiple aspects of modern trade. There is tariff elimination and reduction from both the countries. As I mentioned, 99% of Indian exports will gain duty-free access to UK markets over the next 7 years. India will also reduce tariffs on 90% of UK products. 85% of UK products become tariff-free within 10 years coming into India. The average UK tariffs on British goods drops from 15 to 3%. There is also a mechanism for dispute resolution and oversight. If there is any issue between the two parties, then dispute can be resolved through internal mechanisms. The free trade agreement provides for a structured dispute resolution mechanism. Disputes can be resolved through consultation. If consultations fail, it will be followed by a panel review and a binding decision. The process also includes clear-cut timelines. Hearing for any dispute commences within 45 days of dispute notice, and the final report must be issued within 120 to 150 days. Apart from this, sector-specific concessions have been provided. For India, they have reduced tariffs on Scotch whisky. The tariffs have been reduced from 150 to 75% immediately. Automobile sector would also be opened up. India will lower tariff from 100% to 50% for up to 10,000 units of high-end electric and hybrid vehicles coming from UK into India. Services and professional mobility has already been provided, which we have discussed. This was a major irritant which has been resolved. The agreement liberalizes over 115 subsectors across 11 services categories, including IT, finance, education, and business services. There are strict rules of origin measures in the free trade agreement. The FTA include strict rules of origin to ensure only domestically produced goods benefit from concessions. Most of the manufacturing goods, they must meet a minimum 40 to 45% regional value content addition. Apart from this, better regulatory and governance framework is also one of the areas of FTA. Custom authorities will have to become more efficient after this FTA. Custom authorities must issue advanced rules of origin, classification, valuation within 150 days of application. For perishable goods, the clearance must be provided within 6 hours. And most of the consignments have to be processed within 1 or 2 days. The FTA also recognizes the importance of MSME sector. Micro, small and medium enterprises have been recognized. Both India and UK will establish contact point and online information portals for MSME to access legal, regulatory and procedural guidance for each country's MSMEs. So the FTA will open up India's market to UK products and UK's market to India's products, reducing tariffs. Now let's delve into some of the sectors which might benefit. I'm talking about Indian sectors which will benefit from this FTA. The major beneficiaries include textiles and apparel industries. Textile sector will emerge as one of the largest benefactors from this FTA, where there will be complete elimination of tariffs that had reached almost 12%. This addresses India's long-standing disadvantages against the competitors like Bangladesh and Cambodia. UK's textile import market of 27 billion offers substantial potential growth for Indian textile and apparel industry. Another sector which will be benefited is the marine and fisheries sector. India's fisheries sector, which is particularly concentrated in the coastal areas, will gain access to UK's 5.4 billion marine import market. Gems and jewelleries will also benefit. Gems and jewellery sector currently contributes to about 940 million exports to UK. This is projected to double within the next 2 to 3 years. Engineering goods will also benefit, as the large category with 1659 tariff line. Engineering goods including machinery, equipment and auto components are expected to see accelerated growth due to duty-free access. Agricultural exports will also benefit from duty-free access on 95% of tariff lines. Key beneficiaries include spices, marine products, and value-added items like mango pulp and pickles. Services sector will also benefit. There will be enhanced mobility. Enhanced market access would be provided in IT and IT services with better mobility provisions. Financial services liberalization is also guaranteed through the free trade agreement. Apart from that, there would be expansion in consulting, education, and healthcare. These are some of the sectors which will benefit. However, because of the free trade agreement, there might be some sectors in India which might be adversely impacted. Pharmaceutical sector is one which might be affected. Please try to understand that the free trade agreement will also provide greater access to UK markets, but stricter intellectual property provisions in the FTA, which are more stringent than the WTO norms, it might be a concern for India's generic drug manufacturing industry. The terms in the FTA could make it harder for Indian pharmaceuticals to produce affordable generics. Although in the FTA and in the provisions that we have maintained the right of issuing compulsory licensing. Apart from that, government procurement has been opened up. Not for all the products. Certain areas of the government procurement have been opened now for UK competition, mainly non-sensitive central government contracts. This may erode the position of Indian firms, which was very lucrative segment with about $600 million worth government procurement from domestic companies. Now, UK government will also gain a share in this. Apart from this, the FTA's commitment on digital trade, financial digitalization, competition, and market access could constrain Indian government's regulatory flexibility, especially to protect the nascent and the vulnerable tech sectors in the future. Why? Because once this FTA can of worms is opened, it cannot be closed later. And this also becomes a template for other countries to negotiate with us. There are certain sectors which have been completely protected. You all know that one of the major irritants between India and UK was the dairy sector. UK wanted the Indian dairy sector to be opened up. However, India has protected our dairy sector. Dairy products remain completely protected from UK imports, reflecting India's commitment to safeguarding its vast dairy industry and the livelihood of Indian dairy farmers. This exclusion protects 40% of the workforce in the agricultural sectors. Apart from dairy, other agricultural products are also protected, like apples, oats, and edible oils are also protected from UK markets or UK products. So these were some of the details of India-UK Free Trade Agreement. Let's now delve into understanding the strategic implications and future outlook. One needs to understand that the FTA has not come into operation immediately. The agreement requires a ratification by UK Parliament, which is expected to take about 9 to 12 months. And then there will be gradual introduction of tariff reductions and other regulatory changes that are to come in the next 5 to 10 years. But there are certain tariff reductions which have been imposed immediately as well. As I told you about, the liquor tariffs have been reduced. But one needs to understand larger implications of this free trade agreement. This FTA, it represents a more than a traditional agreement. It basically serves as a strategic blueprint for India's engagement with developed economies. It becomes a template for us now to negotiate with others. Once India-UK FTA is finalized, others will also look towards it. India's future trade negotiations with the European Union, Australia, United States of America, and other developed economies might see a similar kind of negotiations. For the United Kingdom, it marks a significant trade achievement, especially post-Brexit in 2016. The success of this agreement will likely influence the ongoing trade negotiations, not just between India and developed economies, but among other countries as well. During these protectionist times worldwide, India-UK Free Trade Agreement provides a hope for a more open world, which India believes in. Let me conclude this discussion. I hope you have gained good insight into India-UK Free Trade Agreement. Thank you for watching this video. Please like and share the videos and also subscribe to Rahul Verse. Thank you again. Jai Hind.